Take 5. Hello and welcome to the 28th episode of my knitting podcast. My name on Instagram is Orchid's Heart and I live in Birmingham in England. It's a lovely autumn October day today. It's really sunny, the room is bright, the leaves are all sort of crunchy. I've just come back from a walk with my partner, just a short walk around. We've got a really small woods at the top of our road. I'm quite lucky. And yeah, it's a lovely day. This is the first time that I've started recording this, so only like the first 5 minutes, because all sorts has happened in the last 5 minutes. They tried to drive a crane around outside of our house and I got so distracted that the first time I recorded this opening it was all gobbledygook. So we don't need to, you don't need to listen to that. I have quite a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to try not to be too gobbledygook. And share with you the things I finished making and some future plans, and I'm about to go on quite a big trip, so thinking about what to take with me when I go on this trip. So I'm going to start with what I'm wearing. So I have on my Brume Hat by Melody Hoffman, Bmandarines. This is knit in 2 strands of Brooklyn Tweed Loft and 1 strand of Kidsilk Haze mohair by Rowan. The reason why I use 2 strands of Brooklyn Tweed Loft and not just whatever the thicker yarn is because I made a mistake when I bought the yarn. I got a bit confused. I was in a really nice yarn shop and I got a bit overwhelmed. But yeah, I talked about this hat I think quite a bit in a previous podcast, probably last year. I made it last year. But yeah, I love it. It fits really well. It's actually the child size because the first one I made came out way too big in a different yarn, which I'll actually share later because I'm going to make another one. And yeah, it's a really good hat pattern. It's got 2 sets of decreases, so at 4 different points. And it's really kept its shape, I think, because the first few inches you knit in a smaller needle gauge, and so it kind of cinches it in a bit. I don't think I knit mine as tall as she knit hers because often I have it really flat against my head. I don't really like that pointy top. I think it was Knitting Traditions Inga that compared it to something, and I totally agree with where she's coming from. Yes, not going to go into that. It wasn't Smurf Hat, she said, it was something else, but I do get Smurf Hat vibes from that. But yeah, I love wearing this hat, and I knit I think 4 of them last year, 2 of which were gifts, technically 3 because the one that came out too big I sort of gave to my partner. Yeah, so that's that, and then I'm wearing another Bmandarines pattern, which is a long-term whip, and I'm so glad it's finished because I got really bored knitting it, is this jumper. So this is the Tulip Sweater by Bmandarines, Melody Hoffman, and I knit it in 2 strands of Plutlopi in this light beige colour, and then a strand of mohair from a mystery cone I thrifted off eBay. So I bought a cone of mohair, and it's vintage. I don't really know what the makeup of it is. It says it's mohair, but having tried to dye it a few times, because it's a massive cone, there's loads of it, it's going to last me forever. I'm not entirely convinced what it's made of because I'm actually really struggling to dye it. I've tried dyeing it with Rit dye and natural dyes, and it weirdly doesn't take the colour very well, so I'm not really sure what it is. But in its natural state, it's like a off-white yellowy colour, which blends really well with this because it's got so many different shades in it that it doesn't really stand out, but it does help give that really like extra fuzzy halo, which you can see on there. So yeah, I really love this jumper. Forgive me because at this point I'm not sure what I've said and what I haven't said about this jumper. I was going to knit the size 2, but following my swatch I decided to knit the size 3 because my other Lettuce jumper, so this is Plutlopi, but my other Lettuce jumper is quite fitted. Like I think it's like 0 positive ease or not very much positive ease, and so I wanted something that was not like different, that had a different like role in my wardrobe. And to be honest, this combination is very much inspired by Morgan of Shop Knitting Nelly. I think it's just a username that's Shop Knitting Nelly. She has a really nice photo where she has a red hat and a white tulip pullover, and it looks really lovely. And I was kind of inspired by her, and I think hers is a similar shape. She might have a bit more positive ease, I think, in the arms on hers, but it's a very similar shape. So I wanted something where the waistband was kind of on, like the scallops went just past my waistband. Now before this was blocked, I think it was a bit shorter. It was like here. And now it's just a bit longer, but you know, that's fine. And I really like how it came out. The scallops do have a tendency to kind of curl and bunch and not really lie properly. But to be honest, it's really comfy. When I first finished it, I'm just trying to think about this. So looking at other people's versions of the tulip and conversations I've had with people that have made jumpers by Bmandarines, her necklines can be really wide, and I really didn't want that because I don't really like it when I can see my t-shirt poking out underneath. And I don't want to get cold neck, and I don't want it to stretch out over time and get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I did a folded neckline. I did the smallest, it's coming back to me. I cast on the least amount of stitches given for the neckline and decided I would increase up to the size that I was going to knit. I did then decide when I was doing my increases that I don't think I did the last lot of increases for size 3. So I think the body might actually ended up being size 2 because I decided it was big enough, because on the needles, in comparison to the other knits I've done before, which I think were quite fitted, it looked massive to me, and I was a bit worried it was going to drown me, but actually it's come out perfect. And that it might be too big under the arms, but actually I'm quite happy with how much I've ended up with here. Although admittedly I've not put a coat over it yet. But so I did a folded over neckline. But I've noticed the folded over neckline on my other jumper where I've done a folded over neckline, the Magnolia Bloom, has over time also stretched out. And watching some of Andrea Mowry's videos, she has suggested, to stop neckline stretching out, that you cast on without a neckband, knit the jumper, and at the end pick up the neckband, knit the neckband however you want it, whether it's single, folded over, whatever, because that cast on edge will stop it from stretching out too much. That sounds like a really good idea. To be honest, I'd already done this. I was already down here somewhere when she said that, and I'm lazy. So what I've actually done, which I'm going to attempt to show you, which might be a bit tricky, is I've threaded through some rolled over elastic. So you can see the ends of it there. On the inside, I got like a bodkin, a thick needle, threaded through some rolled over elastic and threaded it through, because this is like a channel, it's double length, so you can't see it. Because it's quite a thick yarn, like it's Aran weight, I guess. I was able to get it through to rows of purl stitches or knit stitches or whatever on the inside, and thread it round and pull it back through and tie a knot, so that it was so it's got plenty of stretch, but it should always spring back. Now I have to be honest, the first time I did it, it was really like up against my neck and like uncomfortable, and I could feel this against my neck. So I did do a bit of like loosening it, letting it out a bit more. Crane's coming back. Loosening it, letting it out a bit more, putting it back on until it felt comfortable. That was before I blocked it. It still felt, I could still feel it on my neck a bit, and I was a bit like, oh, this might be a mistake, this might not work out. But you know, it would have been easy to take it out, it's only a knot. And I also thought the knot would probably drive me mad on the back of my neck. But I blocked it, and I have to say, obviously the whole jumper felt so much better after it was blocked. It was a bit tight on the arms, and it felt a bit, I mean, as it would, it felt a bit seized up. But I think Lettuce and Plutlopi, they change so much when you block them. Once I put it on after it was dry, I was just like, I love it. I was a bit unsure before I blocked it, but it's now really, really comfortable. The neck has eased up a little bit. I feel fairly confident it's not going to stretch out because of the elastic in it. It's like got loads of stretch to get it on and off. It's not an issue at all. And it feels softer. So for the first time ever, rather than just soaking it in the sink with some essential oils and then like rolling up in towels to get the liquid out and doing it that way, because the price of energy has gone up so much, we haven't put our heating on yet. We don't really need to. It's about 17 to 15 degrees during the day at the moment. When it's 15 degrees, it is a bit rough in here working because my job is quite stationary. I'm at the computer. I do get a bit cold. But it meant I was a bit worried about doing that and knitwear actually drying, especially something this thick, because we are starting to have problems drying our clothes in the house because it's not really warm enough to do that, and we don't have a garden where we can put things outside. I wouldn't really want to put anything on the roof deck that we built because I think the birds would probably get a bit tempted to pick at it and stuff. The magpies around here are just really aggressive, and it might blow away or something like that, you know. So I wouldn't want to put it on the roof deck to dry it out. Because I also can't get to the roof deck really quickly, so if it started raining or something, like I have to go up a ladder, so it's not like I can just open the door and go grab it and bring it back in. And I can't see it. I think I'd be a bit worried putting something outside and not being able to see that it was all right. So all that to say, I decided to do a wool wash in the washing machine. So I do wash my knits in the washing machine. We have a cold hand wash wool cycle, and I triple check always that it's on the cold hand wash cycle because there's also like a 30-degree one. And I stuck a load of my socks in and some other stuff that needed washing and this, and it made a massive difference. So it was properly washed the first time. And my mum was talking to the owner of No Frills Knitting in Bristol in England, because she's knitting a Lettuce jumper at the moment and she bought the yarn from there. And Meg, the owner of that shop, said that the yarn does have a coating on it, and so before you use it, it has got that coating, and then that's why it softens up so much when you actually wash it. So there we go. Completely changed, a lot more drapey. It's really light because I guess it's only 3 plates of Plutlopi and some mohair, because I bought 4 plates and I have 2 of these left, so maybe just over 3 plates. But yeah, love it. Did not enjoy knitting it at all. It's quite a dense gauge, I think a bit denser than it was meant to be, and I got really bored knitting it. I can't say I either particularly enjoyed doing the scallops either because I found it a bit monotonous. I don't really like doing plain knitting this much. I mean, in theory it went quite quickly to start with because it's quite thick. I think I just lost enthusiasm. I started knitting it before the summer. I think that was part of it. I started knitting it before the summer. I got to about here, and because it was plates of Plutlopi and a giant cone of mohair, it wasn't very portable. So I didn't have it in a project bag. I had it in a quite big like postal box, and so I was taking the box to knitting night and transporting the box around the house knitting, and it was just really awkward. At knit night they were laughing at me because I was like, I need a chair for me and a chair for my box of Plutlopi plates, because if they roll around they'll break. So that's part of the reason I had the box. I mean, the box thing worked quite well. I only had like 2 or 3 occasions of breakages with this, so I did pretty well with that. But yes, anyway, so tulip pullover goes really nicely with my skirt and with lots of other things, and it'll be really good for our trip in a few weeks. We're going to I guess the east coast of America, like New England kind of way, and then a bit further south, Philadelphia, in November, and everyone keeps telling me that New England will be really cold, so I think it'll be good for that. So my next finished object is these. It's this way around. So, which I don't think is going to look like a great deal on the camera. It's also kind of difficult to show you because it's quite big. Just looks like a knitted shape, doesn't it? This is, let me see if I can show you some of the lace. Is that what they call a shale lace pattern? Not really sure. It's blowing out a bit as well. So this is the Birds of a Feather shawl pattern by Drea Renee. I knit one before, which I brought here just to show and compare because it's a completely different thing. And actually you might be able to see the lace a bit better on this one, although I made some mistakes, so don't judge me too much. That side looks a bit neater. So it's like a, so in the pattern originally, she uses the same colour on a mohair base and I think a merino singles base. And so the bits where I've got yellow, I think she uses mohair, and then the other one she uses the singles. I think it might have been the other way around. So this one I knit with a Viola Moon merino 4-ply, and that's this one, and it's got these beautiful flecks in it, absolutely gorgeous. I love that yarn. And a silk alpaca linen lace weight, naturally dyed, from Woollenflower. When I made this Birds of a Feather, it feels gorgeous. It's so silky soft and drapey and just like you just want to snuggle it. I didn't know what I'd wear it with, but actually I really like it with this jumper. I've been wearing it a lot together because I didn't have any sort of neutral jumpers that were plain. I didn't really feel like I had anything to wear this with. It was season appropriate. These colours felt more like summer colours rather than winter colours. But I actually, weirdly, quite like the combo of the red hat, this scarf and this jumper. So I have been wearing it a lot more. So another reason why this jumper's been quite a good knit. It has meant that I have something to wear this with. So I've been really enjoying that. But, sorry, maybe from this you can see sort of the construction of my other one a bit better. So you start at this end and you do some increases and it makes an irregular triangle, sort of long triangle shape, which I find quite wearable actually. I don't tend to wear my shawls as shawls, I tend to wear them as scarves. So last year I went to Loop London and found this yarn by Daughter of a Shepherd, and it's called Brume, and they do it in different weights. I think they do 4-ply DK and Aran weight, and it's 50% Hebridean, 25% Zortals and 25% Exmoor Blueface. And it says yarn from Hebridean sheep, summer 2019 clip, grade 1 fibre from the north of England. And it is gorgeous rustic yarn. It isn't cheap, it's actually quite expensive. But it's really lovely, it smells really nice, and I fell in love with it, but it was too expensive for me when I went to the shop and saw it on that occasion. So it is a proper fingering weight yarn. It's 400 metres for 100 grams, sourced, scoured and spun in the UK. So, oh, I've just found a stitch marker still in it. So I had a big birthday last January, it was my 30th. And I was given a couple of vouchers to Loop London. And so with one of them, I bought 2 skeins of this, and I thought it would be enough because I used 2 skeins to knit my other one. Of course, what I forgot was one of them was a lace weight and therefore is 600 metres per 100 grams, not 400. So I obviously was short by 200 grams. And so I had to buy a third skein. Which I was a bit frustrated about because it is almost £30 a skein, which is a lot. When I bought the first 2, not only was it on sale in the shop I bought it from, but I used my gift card, so it was actually £20 a skein and the gift card covered it. So I was a bit like, okay, it was a present and now I've had to buy a £30 skein of yarn to finish it, which at the moment is a bit tricky. So, but I couldn't leave it not finished. I was like, I could wait until my next birthday and ask for another skein, but that means wait until January, and this feels like a really autumnal project, and I wasn't that far off finishing it. I just kind of wanted to get it done, but equally I knew I needed like another 50 grams, and so I have about 50 grams left. I don't know what I'm going to use it for yet. I think I'm quite happy for it to sit in my stash for a while. Maybe it can become a contrast colour for something else. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to worry about it for now. But yeah, so I'm really pleased with this knit. I really love it. Again, I think I might take it on holiday with me because it just feels like a nice squishy, woolly blanket almost. It's a lot more substantial than the other one I made. It is completely different. And it's just really big and still smells quite sheepy. But yeah, so I need to work out how I'm going to wear it. I'm not really sure yet, because I think it is bigger than the other one. But then that makes sense if it's a thicker yarn. So, I mean, I don't tend to wear my shawls like this, to be honest. But whilst I'm working from home, it's quite good. But yeah, so that's my other finished object. And I think that's all the finished objects. I did do some work on some previously finished objects. I need to be careful, plants in the way. I did mention in my last video, I think, that I wanted to do some work on making some past projects more wearable. So when early on in my knitting journey, I made, this was my first encounter with lace pattern. I made this Mount Pleasant tee out of Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co. It's one of her limited editions, and it was a Dorset wool and alpaca blend. During COVID, I got completely obsessed with Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co. I discovered her just as I was starting to get confident in knitting, and COVID hit, and obviously no one was spending money on going out. And so I think I spent the money that I normally spend on going out on Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co yarn, and so I bought this one. I bought 2 skeins of this limited edition. I think this is just over half a skein I've got left. And I knit this, but when I first knit it, and I'll insert a little video I made, as you can probably see in the video if it's playing right now whilst I'm talking, I picked up too many stitches on the sleeve cuff and it stuck out really, really badly. And so I never wore it because I don't know whether you can see me or you can see the video. I never wore it because it just looked really silly, and oh, the necklace has come off. It looked really silly and I felt a bit embarrassed, and I was really upset with how that looked. And so now that I understand knitting a little bit more, I realised if I ripped it out and did it again, it would look much better. So that's exactly what I did. So rather than inserting another video, I'll just show you. So I picked up less stitches. I did what I do like for everything now. I pick up 5 in every 7. So I picked up 3, missed 1, picked up 2, missed 1, picked up 3, etc. And it now sits much better. It's not been blocked since I did it. I think it would feel a bit better if I blocked it, because then maybe this would feel a little bit less tight. But it looks so much better, and now I can wear it. I really wanted to make sure that I did it now, because this is the time of year where I'm going to wear something like this. Once it gets colder, I won't. So I have a short window of time for wearing something like this. But it's quite good for work actually. I wore it to work yesterday with a very similar outfit actually, with a brown long sleeve top, not this one, and this skirt. And it's quite good because my office is really, really warm, and so wearing an all over jumper I get a bit too hot, but equally just a long sleeve t-shirt isn't really enough. So this has worked really well, so I've been really pleased with that. So last year whenever it was, it might have been 2 years ago now at this stage. Sorry, 1 second, let me sort myself out. When I knit that one, I was surprised at how easy lace actually was to knit. The good thing about that pattern is the lace isn't very wide and it's the first thing you do. So if you make a mistake, you haven't actually lost out that much time starting over. Oh, I love how stretchy the neck is on this. And so I decided fairly soon after sorry, I'm nearly dressed again. I decided fairly soon after knitting this one that I wanted to knit one in a softer yarn that I could wear on bare skin, because when I made this, I didn't really feel like it was very wearable. I didn't know what I was going to wear it with, and I thought, oh, this was a bit daft. A jumper with no sleeves, I probably should wear on a yarn I can wear on my bare skin, because then I would actually wear it more. And so I made one out of Garthenor Preseli in this really nice orange colour, which is so soft, and I've actually worn this one quite a bit. I was scared to wear it to start with, which I know is silly because I thought it would pill like mad really quickly, but it's not doing too badly. It still looks quite neat. But the reason why I'm showing it is because so when I fixed the cuffs on this one, I decided to stitch some tags into the back of both of them, because they do have short rows, so there is a back and front, and sometimes it can take me a while to find that when I'm getting dressed really quickly in the morning, so it just makes it that much easier to find. And let's face it, that looks really cute. My friend gave me that label. She said she bought it from Blackbird Fabrics in Canada, and for UK people, if you want to buy some, she said the reason why she bought them was because they only charge envelope postage, so the postage is only like 2-3 quid. You don't have to pay like parcel postage for buying labels. So I thought that was a really good tip, because I said, you were brave ordering from Canada, surely the taxes and postage is mad, and she said no, because it was letter sized, so that's good. I feel like I'm losing my voice a bit. So, whips. First whip. I have cast on the Velvet Mirror Cowl by Andrea Mowry, which is a cowl unit in the round. It's one that only goes around once, and then you put a twist in it before you join it together. You do a provisional cast on. So it should be, they call it an infinity cowl, so you can't see the start and the end. Yes, so it's the same pattern all the way over, but halfway through you switch which is the main colour and which is the contrast colour. So she gives you 2 charts, and one is exactly the same as the other, except they're inverted. Now, I started knitting it, and I think her main colour is the dark one and her contrast is the light one. And so I was knitting the first chart because it said knit the first chart, and my brain was getting like really confused because my colour, my light and dark, was the other way around to hers. And so I realised, because the charts were inverted, I could just use the second chart first, do the 2 repeats of that, and then when I swap my colours, use the first chart and do 2 repeats of that, and it would come out exactly the same. And it's just been much easier. I've really been enjoying this. It's really easy colour work. There aren't any long floats, and even if there are, because it's all going to be concealed, it's not a big deal. The yarns are really lovely. I'm just really enjoying it. So I'm using this yarn, which is a yarn I won in a giveaway by Ampersand Fibres, and it's the Caslon Fingering in the colour Oat, and it's 100% US Corriedale, 400 yards for 100 grams, 3-ply. So this yarn is actually quite stretchy. Like, it has a reasonable amount of bounce and stretch to it, which has actually meant it's been really, really good for colour work. I really enjoyed knitting with it. It's quite a nice basic neutral colour. When it arrived, I was like, oh, that's a good colour, but what am I going to do with one skein of it? And I think the pattern originally is sport weight yarn, which I guess this is roughly what this is. It uses spin cycle yarns, and so she has a bit of colour changing going on in hers. Obviously Andrew Mowry, she loves spin cycle, and so I thought, oh well, I'll use this because I can use the whole skein of this, and it will look really nice with this mohair I used, because she uses I think a DK weight Suri. So this is a fingering weight Suri by Zakami, which I got in their bargain bucket at a yarn festival. So it's 74% baby Suri Alpaca, 26% silk, and it's lace weight. It's non-superwash, and I have 50 grams. Because I needed a thicker weight, and holding this double would mean I wouldn't have enough, I actually found in my stash this lace weight something, I don't know what it is, which I naturally dyed with Buddleia using citric acid to make it brighter and alum as a mordant. And so I decided the two together would be a really good combo, and then they would make the appropriate weight yarn. I think it is still on the fine side, but because Suri is really fluffy, it fills in any like remaining gaps. So this is so deliciously soft and drapey, it's unreal. I cannot wait to wear it. I think it'll be really cozy. So I'm 3/4 of the way through the first chart, second repeat. So I'm a little bit anxious it's not going to be big enough, because I'm not far off being halfway round. So I'm not sure, but we'll see. Maybe when you block it, it stretches out a bit, I don't know. Because I don't know if I'll have enough yarn to do an extra repeat, and maybe that would throw off the symmetry of it. I don't know. So we'll see. I don't know whether I'll end up just knitting until I've used all the yarn. But it's been really enjoyable. I do obviously have to focus because it's all over colour work, but it's kind of like a nice focus. It's a focus I can actually do whilst watching TV or a podcast, because it's very like 2, 1, 2, 1, 3. Like, it's not difficult colour work to follow. There's only 1 or 2 sections where I do have to really focus and where I find it less intuitive, but mostly it's like really easy. So I have considered saving the rest for my holiday, because we have 7 hours on the plane. We will need to wait in the airport for a while to check our bags and everything, which is not something I've done for a while. I usually do hand luggage only. Yes, there's quite a lot of travelling, so I thought it might be quite a good thing to do in the airport on the plane, because I don't want to fall asleep on the plane, because we'll be flying during the day and landing at 5 in the evening. So I don't want to sleep on the plane, that'll mess me up. So I thought it might be a good thing to save, but equally I am really enjoying knitting on it at the moment, and it might be quite nice to actually wear on holiday. So to be honest, I'll probably end up finishing it before we go. So I don't know why I'm debating that, because I've pretty much made up my mind. Because at the moment, I think it's the only exciting thing I've got on the needles. Because I literally just finished everything else a couple of days ago. My other whip is quite a basic whip. It is a pair of socks in some rustic yarns. So I don't know if you can tell, it's two different colours slightly. I'm using, this is the second one I've started. So this is Snowdonia Sock by Garthenor, which is 50% Romney and 50% Hebridean. It's organic. It is grown in South Wales and the Scottish Highlands and South West England, where I grew up. Sourced and spun in Yorkshire, hand finished in West Wales. So fairly local yarn. It's all in, you know, the UK. It's really, really woolly and bouncy. However, and I really love the colour. So this is the colour, and I'm not going to say this correctly. I'm sorry, my Welsh. I don't know any Welsh at all. Tegid. I'm not sure. I bought one skein when they had a sale to kind of try it because no nylon socks make me a bit nervous. I'm quite heavy going on my feet. And actually, quite a few people messaged me saying that they had knit socks from this and they wore through them really quickly. So I was a bit like, I don't really want to make socks and then just wear through them really quick. I also realised that 50 grams wasn't quite enough to make a pair of socks. I have made pairs of socks out of 50 grams, but I've since realised that's a little bit too short for me and I'd like them to be a little bit longer. So I had bought a skein of Daughter of a Shepherd Drover to try, also 50 grams, to make some socks, just to try out the yarn, because this has a bit of nylon. This is 90% British wool, 10% nylon, 166 metres per 50 grams, so slightly thicker than a 4-ply, and it's Hebridean Zorptals, just Hebridean Zorptals, and this is the colour Whernside. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say it. And when I had to order the second skein of the Brume for my shawl, I decided I may as well order a second skein of Drover. So I ordered one. So the Drover comes in 3 colours, 3 different shades of like browny grey. Now I don't know if you can tell, this is a different colour to this. Slightly. Very slightly. This is a bit darker and this is a bit lighter. So I decided I would order the mid. I'd already bought the darkest. I would order the mid shade and I would use it for the heels and toes of my Snowdonia socks, just to give them a bit of extra strength. So that's what I'm doing. That's why the heel flap is slightly darker. So I'm just doing a very basic sock. I will do the heel flap. So I've done the heel flap, I'll turn the heel. I will then knit with the Snowdonia until I run out, because I've split it into 2 25-gram balls, and I guess establish how much I need to use of the Drover to do the toes, because I think I will run out before I get to the toe naturally, so I might have a slightly deeper contrast toe section than I normally would, but that's totally fine, it'll be more hard wearing. And then with the rest, I also picked my colours because I saw Katie Greenbean's podcast and her new mushroom sock pattern is going to be coming out at some point in the autumn, and I'm pretty sure from what I can judge that she uses the darkest and the mid darkest, although I am now questioning that now I see them together, because maybe she uses the darkest and the lightest. The idea was that I would have enough of these and then some other contrast colours to make those socks, because I have a little bit of this left which I could use for the mushrooms, and I have plenty of 4-ply beige yarn, like I have Exmoor sock by John Arbon I could use for the mushroom stalks, or a yarn that isn't a sock yarn, and then I could do her mushroom socks. So I hope that I would have the right yarn for that. That's the goal anyway. If not, if it doesn't work out, I will just knit some very low contrast stripy socks in the drover, and hopefully I'd have about 75 grams of drover, so that will make a decent enough pair of long enough socks. That's the idea. Yeah, trying not to zip up the yarn. So yes, I probably will finish these before we go away, or I'll be at the toes, in which case I'll probably just leave them here. But I probably will take my half socks, sorry I'm getting labels muddled, my half socks to do, which I think I'm just going to do like a 3x1 rib on a slightly thicker needle. So I'm just umming and ahhing because the needle size I would need to use, I've only got in bamboo, not in metal, and it might be a bit heavy going using bamboo and a rustic sock yarn. But I don't really want to buy another set of mini chia, whatever you call them, which is what I normally use for socks, which I've only got on 2mm. I don't really want to buy another pair of those because I'm kind of hoping I can have the whole mini set for Christmas / birthday, maybe. My partner likes to give me tools for a present. It's the kind of thing that he would like to give me, which I'm really lucky, as a Christmas or birthday present, because he does believe in spending money on good tools and them lasting you a long time. So that kind of present is something that would give him a kick because it'd be something I'd use all the time. So I don't really want to buy another just that size to knit these when I could persevere with bamboo or wait until I have those needles. I don't know. But that would be a good travel knit because it'd be easy. But the next... So, future knits, which I've kind of already started talking about. I have already cast on and definitely decided I'm taking on holiday my second Plutlopi and mohair green Brume Hat. So this is the first Brume Hat I made. It is absolutely massive. I can actually get it on over the one I'm wearing. That's how big it is. It has stretched out, but it's just huge. So my partner wears this one. I've kind of pretty much accepted it's way too big for me, but I absolutely loved it when I made it. So I have cast on and done the first few rows, but it's 1x1 rib and I hate knitting 1x1 rib. So I've decided, I've put it in a bag and I've decided it will be a good holiday travel knit. If we're driving for long hours, I will knit on that. So I have cast that on. He's not going to be very happy when he realises we're going to have matching hats, but never mind. That's okay. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit kind of like... But I did order, I pre-ordered this paperback copy of Strands of Joy because last year I bought some yarn by Fibre and I had decided I was going to use it to make this jumper. So it's the reed pattern and it's really beautiful, and I had so these are the two colours I bought from Fibre. So it's 50% Gotland and 50% Black Welsh something. Can't remember, I'll check the label in a minute. And I had this contrast colour, which looks really similar to the one in the picture. And this was gifted to me by somebody. I did a yarn swap with them and it's a lovely French combination. I don't know French for knitting and I can't read the label. I think it's an alpaca blend, possibly with Rambouillet. I've shoved the label in here now so I can't really look, but I did try and guess. It's definitely a 4-ply. And I thought that the three of these looked a lot like the yarn in the picture. I started swatching and I was going to do the colourwork chart properly, I don't like the combination at all. I realised within a few rows that for me, this is too garish. The combination, it's a shame because I do actually like this colour, but I don't think it goes. To me, this reads Halloween jumper, and I love Halloween. Sorry, I think my voice is going. But I don't love it knitted up, so it's not going to happen. So I'm a little bit sad. I wonder if I ought to knit a jumper with just these two colours, just the fibre tails. As this was such a lovely gift, I was quite excited to use it together, but it just, to me, it just doesn't work. I really don't think that this is something I would wear. I don't think it would suit me either, to be honest. I think maybe this is a bit bright, so I think this is more of an accessory, perhaps. I need to make some kind of accessory with it, not the jumper, or if it's going to be a jumper, colourwork lower down. I think that might be much better for me. So I'm a bit sad about that. Sorry, hold on, I need to drink some more tea. So I've been looking at patterns in here, and there's loads of beautiful patterns. It's a really beautiful book, so I'm not sad that I bought it. I could knit the same pattern and use beige as the contrast, which I am debating. That might still happen, but maybe that's too neutral. Like, I keep knitting neutral jumpers, and I was trying to knit something a bit different. So I am thinking that I could maybe do this one instead. Or this is the one my partner prefers, that one, because the yarn does still meet the requirements for that. Or my original plan actually when I bought the yarn was to do the Alaska jumper. So, and that one is grey and it has black trees at the bottom. But I had decided that I wanted something really classic with the Fibre Tails yarn. So I don't know why I then decided to do like a really jazzy, unusual pattern. But the yarn is really lovely. I've got two here still in the skein. So I have 3 in the light grey and then 1 in the dark. So it's organic Gotland 2-ply, 50% Gotland, 50% local wool, 275 metres per 100 grams. So it is really lovely, and I really want to make sure I use it for something special and nice. So maybe I should just knit the Alaska because that was my original plan. However, I don't own that pattern, and I do now own an entire book of jumper patterns. So I don't know. If you think that there's a particular pattern out of those I just showed you that you thought was really nice, let me know. Or maybe just the Alaska, that was the original plan. But I was thinking if I was doing a colourwork yoke jumper, if I did the yoke before I went away, then that could also be quite a nice travel knit because then it would just be knitting in the round. We're going for 3 weeks, so I need to really think about what I'm going to take to keep me occupied. Because especially for 1 week of that, there's probably going to be quite a lot of sitting around because we're going to see family and lots of sitting in the evenings. So yeah. So then the last couple of things to share. And with all the indecision of what to use my Fibre Tails yarn for, this might be what I end up casting on next. But with the rest of my birthday voucher, I bought some of this. And yes, I know it's basically the same colour. I have a problem. I really, really stressed about choosing what colour for this project. I wanted to knit a cardigan that I can wear on bare skin that's super basic. And so I think this is going to do that ticket. I want it to go with my winter clothes. I want to wear it in spring and autumn still, or maybe even in the summer when it's a bit chilly in the evening, which is why it needs to be able to be wearable on bare skin. This is incredibly soft, it's not itchy, but the colour is nice and rustic. So it's a French merino. They are Drea Natura are known for their ethical yarns, so I really wanted to give it a go. And so I bought the pattern, and I'm sorry it's in black and white so it's hard to see. It's called the Seasons Cardigan by Ozetta, and so it's like a ribbed, like a very standard cardigan. I think it's quite fashionable, that style at the moment. I'm not normally swayed by what's in fashion, apart from what's in fashion on Instagram, clearly. So I might cast this on next, but I started reading the pattern and it does sound a bit odd. Like you start knitting something flat and then you pick something up, and it's half fisherman's rib. I've never done that before. So maybe that is not something to start to take travelling. Maybe that's something I should start when I get back. However, it is something I'd quite like to be wearing right now. But there's no way I'd finish this before we went away. So maybe I should start this when I get back. At the moment, because there's a lot going on, I'm really craving easy, familiar projects. I find colour work quite enjoyable and that's not too stressful. So I think probably I'm gravitating towards doing something with the Fibre Tails yarn, because that would feel less daunting than trying to do a cardigan, which is not in the round, which is a new stitch style, which is a new construction style. That's like a lot of new, and I'm sure it'll be fine, but I won't have the time when we're travelling to sit down and learn new things. I need to be doing things that I'm familiar with. But another few like projects I'm contemplating. I shared before, but I bought some yarn in a D-stash and she added in as extra this Newton yarn. Now there's about 100 grams in total here, more like 80, about 40 grams of each. And I would really like to make something with it. And I'm thinking maybe a colourwork cowl, because the colours do go together and they're quite high contrast. But I've been looking and I can't really find a pattern that appeals to me. So I did think about making one up and lifting a chart from something else. I did think about using this as the main colour and this is the contrast, and doing like a pattern with moons on, taking the charts from the moon socks I made. But I didn't know whether that would be a bit naff. I'm not sure. Whether something like slightly natural, slightly geometric could be more like classy. But let me know what you think. I don't really know how much I'd get out of this anyway. As a cowl, would I knit it held single or still knit it held double? I've only knit with unspun held double. I have knit unspun double without a mohair. But I feel like if it was held single, it would need to have a mohair in it for strength, and I don't have the right colours to go with this. I also kind of don't want to dilute it, shall we say. I do have the little bits of Plutlopi left. So if it was a 3-colour thing, I have 2 of these. So I have about the same amount of this that I have of these. So if it was like a 3-colour project, I could do that. But I'm not sure. But I think that's something I'd quite like to cast on, but not a travel knit. That'd be something, if I do that, I'll do that now and I'll save the other cowl to take travelling with me, because that yarn's robust, this isn't. But that might be quite a nice thing to work on before I go. And the other thing I'm umming and ahhing about, but have pretty much decided I'm definitely going to do, I was watching Heather and Hops the other day and she has knit her second gondor vest, which is a really fitted ribbed vest. And I'm not a knitted vest person. For me, it's a bit too grandad style. And I don't know, I just don't see how a sleeveless jumper, as I said with my Mount Pleasant tee, would fit into my life and my wardrobe. But I have been wearing my Mount Pleasant tees quite a bit lately, and Heather and Hops styled her gondor vest in a way that I thought was really lovely. And the person who designed the pattern, Fable Knitwear, she has one on over a white butternut blouse with the colour sticking out, and I have a very similar blouse, and that would be quite good for work. So I did find in my stash, this is Fine Donegal by Debbie Bliss, and I bought this a long time ago. I crocheted something out of it and I have a whole skein left. And this La Bien-Aimée mohair, which I bought on a de-stash. So I am thinking about doing a gondole vest with this, and again think that that could be quite a good travel knit because I imagine it's quite easy. I've not bought the pattern or looked at it, but I can't imagine it'd be that hard. I'm just worried because this is a light fingering, I think, so I don't know whether my gauge would be a bit off. And if you're travelling, like, you don't really have time to be fussing with taking multiple needle sizes, swatching and stuff like that. I kind of just want to cast on and go. So I could cast on and start it and do the first inch here and see how it goes and whether it looks like it's going to fit me and try it on. That's an option. But again, I thought that might be, but then, you know, you've got to split for the armholes, you've got to do the back and forth and shaping. Maybe I would need to take quite a lot of paraphernalia with me. I really want to think about these projects I'm taking in a way that I'm taking only what I need. I'm not going to get in a situation where I leave something vital behind. And I've got plenty to keep me occupied whilst we're away, without taking an excessive amount. I also don't really want to put this stuff in my check luggage because I'm paranoid about check luggage going missing. So I kind of want as much as possible in my hand luggage. I don't really want to risk anything, losing anything that I've spent like a lot of money on. Because I have spent, for me, a lot of money on some of my knitting stuff. And to me it is a lot of money. You know, I save up for these things. And I'd be a bit sad if any of it went missing. So, I don't know. So that's where I'm at. A lot of not sure what to cast on next, really. So, yeah, I don't know if you've got any thoughts about any of the projects I'm thinking about. I don't want to end up taking only ribbed projects with me. If I take the hat, the gondole vest and my ribbed socks, that's all ribbing, and I actually don't like ribbing that much, so that might be frustrating. So maybe taking all ribbed projects is a bad idea. I don't know. I think I definitely need to take something mindlessly easy, just because that's nice when you're tired and travel gets a bit stressful sometimes, doesn't it? So yeah. Anyway, I don't think I'm going to be recording again for quite a while. We're going in about 3 weeks, so unless I manage to squish one in before we go away, you might not hear from me until we get back. So that might be December, because when I get back pretty much straight away I'm doing a craft fair. I've been making lots of handmade skincare and stuff, and so I'm going to be selling that locally. Yeah, so I don't know. If I'm quiet for a while, that's why. It's all good things, I promise. So I hope you're enjoying your autumn, and speak to you soon. Bye.